Behind me is my favorite character and animated Christmas classic. This is Sam the Snowman, as a la Burl Ives with Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. See if I move one way. There's the little red nose. I saw online the other day that this actually premiered in 1964. And Michelle, you're just a baby, so you don't remember, but I do. I remember sitting on the sofa with my mama and watching the premiere of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. It is still my favorite Christmas animation. We actually had snow that night. We had a lot of snow, and I can remember opening the door and scooping snow off the steps to make snow cream and watching Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. So in my little pajamas. So it was.
Deb, when I was growing up, the best night leading up to Christmas was always the night that they would show Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, Frosty the Snowman, all one after the other. And the Grinch normally went down on its own on a different night. And I grew up, I loved the Grinch, still is one of my favorites. But I, grew up watching Rudolph and Frosty, and then of course Charlie Brown Christmas. And so behind me, I actually have copies of the illustrated book, and these are actually copies from the 1930s and 1940s. The different variations on poor little Rudolph and that oh so bright nose.
Oh, so bright nose. Well, let's take a look back in the vaults at how Rudolph came to be such an iconic symbol for Christmas. Perfect story for Frank, because this is about a fellow advertising genius, another advertising genius besides Frank. This is I tell you, we all have our favorite Christmas shows. Rudolph is mine. I know it's Christmas when Rudolph comes on TV. So this is about this advertising connection to Rudolph. And I'm sure before you researched this story, you were familiar with
sure,
the elements of the story.
Yeah. I mean, it was, I'm not going to get ahead of the story, but Montgomery Ward, way back when
there were catalogs and people got catalogs. Remember that, people?
But they wanted an unusual advertising gimmick for Christmas. So they gave it to the person who eventually wrote Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
And I remember hearing, and I don't think that this is in the story, and I think that this is true. Well, Google that stuff, and but when Gene Autry recorded Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, the song, his record company, well, a lot of record companies didn't want to touch it.
Yeah, he didn't want to do it either.
And he didn't want to do it, but his wife liked it. And so you keep mama happy. So to keep his wife happy, he actually recorded the song. And of course it became, I think, one of the best-selling Christmas songs of all time. And
well, next to White Christmas.
Of course. Written by Irving Berlin, and who was Jewish. And White Christmas, when he wrote that song, it was like he thought of it as a gift to America. Just and
Bing Crosby didn't want to do it either, and then it became his biggest hit. Anyway, let's see about Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. For the real story behind Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, we turn to factcheckersnopes.com. Rudolph came to life in 1939 when the Chicago-based Montgomery Ward Company asked copywriter Robert L. May, who had a penchant for children's stories and limericks, to come up with a Christmas story they could give away in booklet form. Drawing in part on the tale of the ugly duckling and his own background, he was often taunted as a child for being shy, small, and slight. May settled on the idea of an underdog ostracized by the reindeer community because of his physical abnormality, a glowing red nose. He wrote Rudolph's story in verse as a series of rhyming couplets, testing it out on his 4-year-old daughter, Barbara, who was thrilled with Rudolph's story. However, May's boss was worried that a story featuring a red nose, an image associated with drinking and drunkards, was unsuitable for a Christmas tale. May responded by taking a friend from the company's art department to the Lincoln Park Zoo to sketch some deer. The illustrations of a red-nosed reindeer overcame the hesitancy of May's superiors, and the Rudolph story was approved. Montgomery Ward distributed 2.4 million copies of the Rudolph booklet in 1939 and millions more throughout the war, despite paper shortages. Since Rudolph had been a work-for-hire project, May received no royalties for his creation. Deeply in debt from the medical bills resulting from his wife's terminal illness, she died about the time May created Rudolph. May persuaded the company's president to turn the copyright over to him in January 1947, and May's financial security was assured. The Rudolph phenomenon really took off when May's brother-in-law, songwriter Johnny Marks, developed the lyrics and melody for Rudolph's song. Mark's musical version was recorded by cowboy crooner Gene Autry in 1949, sold 2 million copies that year, and went on to become one of the best-selling songs of all time, second only to White Christmas. A stop-action television special about Rudolph, narrated by Burl Ives, was first aired in 1964 and remains a popular perennial holiday favorite in the U.S. May died in 1976, comfortable in the life his reindeer creation had provided for him.
It's Christmas in Lecompton, where thousands of antique, Victorian, and themed ornaments adorn 200 trees throughout the Territorial Capitol Museum. Open Wednesday through Sunday, the exhibit runs through January 1st. Spend the day and experience all this small town has to offer, both historic sites, shops, food, and wine. Merry Christmas from historic Lecompton.
Howdy, I'm Seth Hayes, and welcome to my hometown, from then to now. Council Grove has a rich history, as deep as the prairie tall grass. Spend the day visiting 25 historic sites, or explore the unique shops and restaurants, or mosey out of town along the Santa Fe Trail. You all visit my hometown, Council Grove, in the heart of the Flint Hills.
Okay, looks like it's time for our tour. Welcome to the Fort Wallace Museum. Here at the museum, you're going to find some really interesting stuff, like our replica stagecoach from the Butterfield Overland Dispatch. We've got facades from the fort buildings. We've got an 1870s flag. There's a plesiosaur that was discovered locally. We've got the Ray pump organ collection. We're a little bitty place with a great big story, and we'd love to have you.